overall stock market cycle, and this is kind of on the left here. This is kind of the investor kind of belief system, how they feel as the stock market goes through like a bull market, a euphoric kind of everyone piling in, everyone's a genius, everybody's rich, and then it has some big collapse. And then we go into this complacency rally, which is really just a bear flag. And then it starts a new downtrend and falls out of favor for a long period of time. And I feel as though this is where Bitcoin is. This is also where some other stocks are, like Tesla is forming the same type of pattern. And what's really interesting is when you start a new bull market, you get these explosive rallies, pauses, and continuation moves when you start a new major uptrend. Well, the same happens when you start a new major downtrend. You get massive collapses in price, and then you get a dead cat bounce, a denial or anxiety kind of bounce of play. And then, of course, it continues lower in that new downtrend. Now, for example, if we were to flip back to Bitcoin here and look at this price action where it's gone completely parabolic, if we zoom in here, you can see how it's gone into this strong uptrend where it was kind of a circular saw blade, a rally, pullback. Eventually, we had this first initial big crack, and it broke a couple critical support levels on the chart. You and I have mentioned this before. And then it went into this kind of bear flag, this complacency move. And the last time you and I talked a few weeks ago, I said, this is a very, very neutral to bearish sign. This has a good tendency that it could play to the downside. If it drops, it could go to 30,000 because it's going to be the start of a new major downtrend. And of course, it came all the way down to 30,000 on that news from Asia, China creating that kind of limiting who can get into cryptocurrencies, create this wave of selling. And now we're in this big drop, and we're in this kind of denial, kind of dead cat bounce type of play, which could linger on for a while, but eventually it is pointing to, a big sideways consolidation or another big drop. So that's where Bitcoin is. Tesla's actually got a very similar chart. It's on the verge of breaking down for a new leg as well, which is a bearish sign for the stock market for sure.
Hold up. Let's talk about Tesla and the stock markets in just a bit. Can you go back to that BTC chart? And I want to talk about that blue line you drew. All right. That squiggly blue line you drew. All right. People might say, well, he's just doodling. No, you're not. That's a very important trend line you're drawing here. Where is that pointing to, Chris?
Yeah, so we don't know where this blue line is going to really end until we see this rally, this move to the upside. And wherever this rallies to and then starts to reverse lower, that's when we can apply technical analysis and get an idea of where this downward momentum is going to carry us. But I wouldn't put it past this pattern here that it could very easily go down to 20,000 or potentially all the way back down to around 15,000. It'll completely wipe out this euphoric, crowd-based herd mentality move, just like we saw on this chart here, where something will go all the way up. Eventually it cracks, breaks to the downside, and it'll come all the way back down and then go dormant for usually a year or 3 or 4. Some commodities go dormant for a decade. So we just got to take it one kind of pattern at a time. But at this point, we're looking at potential 50,000 up here, which is a very significant level on the chart. It's also a whole number. Typically, investors, traders, when they see a whole number like 50,000, they're going to either be shorting it because they want to get out. They think it's resistance. If it breaks 50,000, they'll be like, okay, it's broken 50,000. I want to get in. So there's a lot of things that are going to come into play eventually, and we'll be able to figure out where the next downside move is, depending on how this plays out.
So we're at 41,000 today, right now, as we speak. Basically, you're saying we've got another $10,000 of upside before a crossroads is met. Is basically your summary right now. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Can we apply some numbers to that other chart, the cycles chart that you just showed? Yeah, that one here. So complacency, anxiety, denial, panic, disbelief, depression. That just sounds like life, Chris. That's just the various cycles of life.
The stock market is just a life cycle. It's just people's emotions, right?
Let's apply some numbers to these different phases of this cycle here. So where are we currently again?
We are somewhere here in this kind of anxiety, potentially the denial phase, where we don't really know where we are. All we know is a new downtrend has started, and we need to just wait to see what kind of technical pattern unfolds over the next 1, 2, 3 weeks, and we can get an idea of where the next downside move will be, or maybe it's going to build a bullish pattern versus a bearish pattern, and maybe it's actually put in a bottom. So we need to see where we are. But right now we are in this anxiety denial phase, and there could be a lot more unwinding. I mean, this news just hit about cryptos in Asia. You're not allowed to trade them, own them, even get rid of them. You can't even close your positions. That's an early move. There's a lot of money over there that'll want to get out of the cryptos potentially. And that money's going to go somewhere. Obviously, China's big with gold. We saw gold do fairly well yesterday, considering the bloodbath in the market. So, I mean, all these things, when money comes out of somewhere, it's got to go somewhere else. So that's going to be the next part of the equation, right?
Did you write these captions yourself? They're hilarious. Let's zoom in.
Yeah.
Anger. Who
I hope
shorted
there's
the
no
market?
swearing on there.
Why did the government allow this to happen? Why did the government allow this to? Although, to be fair, the government was partly to blame for Bitcoin's move downwards this past week. Well, specifically news coming out of the Chinese central bank. Depression. My retirement money is lost. How can we pay for all this new stuff? I am an idiot. Well, we can pay for all this new stuff with Biden's stimulus checks. That's how we're paying for all this new stuff. Disbelief, This is a sucker's rally. Okay. I mean, that sounds like, what's the difference between disbelief and optimism here?
I mean, optimism is people go from a hope stage where their hope stage is kind of somewhat like disbelief over here. You're kind of just hoping this is a new rally that's going to start, but it hasn't really taken place yet. Optimism is very similar to kind of denial in a way. You're still really just hoping and holding on. You've been through the roller coaster. It's been a nightmare. It's years and years later. Your money's still underwater. You're just hoping it's going to come back. But people start to get more excited because price is holding up. So people are a little more inclined to start putting a bit more money back into the stock market. And then when it starts to take off, people actually go, they believe, they go, oh, this is a real deal. We're hitting new multi-year highs. We're going back up to all-time highs. People start to pile in. Mm-hmm. It becomes a thrill, and then everyone does it. It's like mainstream media. And then eventually big money or something happens, some type of event that crushes the price, takes the wind out of the sails. And then people don't believe it. People are still in buy the every dip mode. And eventually they get caught at the anxiety denial phase. And then it sells off so much, they're like, well, I can't sell it now. This is crazy. And then they eventually probably panic and give up on it somewhere through this basing formation. They're like, this is dead money, get me out. And then the whole cycle starts again without them. So it's a pretty painful cycle that most investors and traders go through. And this same pattern happens on a 1-minute chart when you're day trading. This is all applicable to any time frame.
Yeah, your emotions just go on a roller coaster there. Now, if you're day trading, I can understand that. Chris, let's talk about before we talk about stock, let's talk about how you'd be positioned now. Putting this all together, you're expecting 10K of downside, but potentially resistance at the 50K level. How would you be positioned if you were to trade?
If I was positioned in here, I mean, I wouldn't be positioned, to be honest. I mean, I don't like to try and pick a bottom like this, because you never know where the bottom is. The bottom this is a dead cat bounce. It could be a 1-day oversold bounce. If you take a look at this, we had a great big drop right here. We had a 1-day bounce back up, and then it just collapsed and continued. And that's pretty much what today could be. So you don't know where the bottom is. Where I would be looking to get positioned would be somewhere right over here. When price starts to work itself up and gets into this area, we've got a lot of price action through here. We got lows. We've got a lot of bars that are trading through here. When it gets somewhere up into this range and starts to show signs that it's starting to break down and roll over, and I see some big selling volume step in, that's when I'd be more interested in potentially trying to profit from a falling price. I don't really want to buy something that's in a downtrend, and I also don't want to try and pick a bottom when something's in a downtrend. So you're better to wait for it to bounce, lose momentum, and then to get on the short side as it starts the next leg lower.